I always thought that stories like mine were pure fiction until I experienced it myself. I used to think that such things only happened in movies or books, but fate had other plans for me. I married my classmate from high school, after which I crossed paths with my future mother-in-law for almost 5 years. My wife's mom, Alice, raised her alone after some problems with her father. Even after the wedding, Alice and her mom, Margaret, had little contact. Their relationship was always distant, and I think both of them were too proud to make any effort to change that. There always seemed to be an invisible wall between them that neither of them wanted to break down. I could sense the underlying tension, but I preferred not to interfere. It wasn't my place to interfere, and I knew it was better to stay out of their unresolved problems. Back in high school, I remembered how strict Margaret was with her daughter. She always made sure that Alice was disciplined, and it was clear that Margaret had high expectations of her. There was no room for error in Margaret's world. Time passed, but she remained the same, unyielding and demanding. She held herself with an authority that was almost impossible to question. We rarely socialized, which was understandable, given her character. By nature, I am a calm and obedient person. It was always easier for me to agree and do something than to get into arguments or confrontations. I never wanted to create unnecessary tension. Alice and I lived together for 4 years without having saved enough money for our own place. We rented an apartment from acquaintances at a reasonable price, and it suited us fine. We were comfortable, and life was relatively simple. Over time, however, these acquaintances decided to move to another country and sell all their possessions, and that's when Alice and I first decided to move in with her mother. I knew it wasn't the best idea, but I was motivated by the desire to find a new place to live and get back to my own space as soon as possible. My mother-in-law treated me well, which was somewhat reassuring, although I could feel the tension in the air. Margaret was a lawyer by profession. Her ability to stand up for herself and get her own way allowed her to achieve impressive results. She was an incredibly strong-willed woman, but even at her age, she was still fit and elegant. She held herself in a confident, almost intimidating manner. Despite this, she never tried to find a man for her, claiming she didn't want to deal with the stress. To her, men were disposable, a rather harsh look, but few seemed to be able to live up to her high standards. She was fierce and independent, and I think this put off anyone who might be interested in her. She had a knack for shutting people out, erecting barriers that were almost impossible to break through. Perhaps it was for the best, at least in Alice's opinion. Though I always thought that perhaps the lack of a male comforting presence may have made her as tough as she was, afraid to show vulnerability or gentleness. I've often wondered what Margaret was like when she was young, before life made her so withdrawn. Had she always been like that, or had something happened that made her put up those walls? I woke up early one morning. Alice had already left for work, and I had an unexpected day off. I was alone in the apartment, and I didn't know what to do with myself. Margaret's apartment was large, with 3 bedrooms and a spacious hall, beautifully furnished and spotlessly clean. It was obvious that Margaret took pride in her home, and she had everything in its place. Still half asleep, I walked past the hallway and caught a glimpse of Margaret in the mirror. She must have just woken up, too. She was dressed in a sheer nightgown, wearing headphones, oblivious to my presence. It was an unexpected sight, and it couldn't help but attract me. I wanted to leave, but curiosity took over. I froze for a moment, just watching. In that moment, she looked different, almost vulnerable. For a moment, she saw me in the mirror, and I felt a rush of embarrassment. Our eyes met in the reflection, and I felt like I'd been caught doing something wrong, like a schoolboy caught up in mischief. I couldn't look away. Margaret had an idea, a brilliant one, she thought. There was a gleam in her eyes, and I couldn't understand what she was thinking. I could feel my heart pounding, the tension building between us. And here I was, lying on the couch with my mother-in-law. She was simply captivating, more alluring than anything I could have ever imagined. She seemed to be in complete control, and I felt powerless before her charms. A storm of emotion swept through me as she seemed to fulfill all of my fantasies that I had nurtured for years, fantasies that I had never imagined coming true. She looked at me and simply said, "Well, go ahead," with a knowing smile that sent shivers down my spine. I did as she said, without hesitation or hesitation. There was a confidence in her voice, an authority that wouldn't let me refuse. And now I'm lying in the other room, staring at the ceiling and wondering what will happen next. My mind is churning with conflicting emotions, excitement, guilt, confusion. I have no idea where this path will lead or how it will affect everything, but there is no turning back now. I'm caught in a situation that feels like I've stepped off the pages of a story I once thought was pure fiction, and I can't help but wonder what tomorrow will bring. Will things ever be the same again? Will I be able to look into Alice's eyes without feeling the weight of what happened? The questions keep piling up, and I have no answers. The uncertainty of it all is both frightening and exhilarating. Lying here, I can hear Margaret moving around in the other room. There is a strange sense of calm in the air, as if what has happened is the most natural thing in the world. I can't help but think about the way she looked at me, how she seemed to know exactly what she wanted and how to get it. It was as if she had it all planned out, and I was just a piece in her game. I feel admiration and fear towards her admiration for her confidence and fear of the power she seemed to have over me. I wonder if she is thinking about what happened, or if it was just another moment for her that doesn't carry the same weight for me. I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning of something bigger, something that will change everything. The more I think about it, the more I realize that I'm drawn to her in ways I can't explain. There's something about her strength, her independence, that fascinates me. She's unlike anyone I've ever met, and I want to know more about her, to understand what makes her who she is. But at the same time, I realize that this attraction is dangerous. It's a path that could lead to the destruction of everything I hold dear. And yet, I can't bring myself to regret what happened. It was the right thing to do at the time, and I can't deny that. The future is uncertain, and I have no idea what will happen next. All I know is that I'm in too deep to turn back, and whatever happens next, I'll have to face it head on.